Hello and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me through all these parts. Welcome to part 4 of the COVID-19 Safety Guidelines video series. This video will be talking a little bit more about some of the symptoms of COVID-19 and what to do if you're getting symptoms and when you should schedule a COVID test. So there's a lot of the symptoms of COVID-19 that we're pretty familiar with. So some of the most common ones people report are difficulty breathing, a little bit of shortness of breath, a fever, and loss of taste or smell. So those are some of the most common, the most characteristic ones that are really kind of like, you should definitely go get a COVID test. But there's a whole lot of different symptoms that are a little bit less well known. So some people might have a lot of stomach issues. So they might have diarrhea, they might have nausea, stuff like that is a possible symptom of COVID. You can have a sore throat, runny nose, congestion, typical hay fever symptoms. You could have that. Pretty much anything. Body aches, fatigue, if you're just kind of feeling overall a little bit crappy, if you have a headache. All of these are symptoms of COVID-19. So, a good rule of thumb, if you wake up in the morning and you feel sick in any way, shape, or form, you should stay home that day. Focus on feeling better. Maybe schedule yourself a COVID test just to be safe. Typically, you can schedule those for the next day with no problem at any drugstore, so Walgreens, CVS. I've had several COVID tests now. You don't even have to get out of your car. You can go through the drive-thru. Super easy. They tell you exactly how to do it, and every time I've done it, I've typically had my results within at most 24 hours. Typically, I would get them a little bit quicker, so 4 to 6 hours I would usually have my results, but that's when you're doing the 24-hour rapid tests. Just do that if you're feeling a little bit under the weather. You should really focus on taking that time to feel a little bit better, do some self-care activities, because a lot of times when you're stressed out about COVID, our health tends to take a back seat. Do not feel like you don't need to take some time off. If you're not feeling well, there's a chance you don't have COVID, and that's true, but either way, you need to take some time off to feel a little bit better. And if you did have COVID, if you got tested and it turns out you do have COVID, by staying home, you have protected everyone in your workplace from getting it as well. So, the main advice is if you're feeling under the weather at all, so if you have a stomach ache, if you're having diarrhea, if you have a fever, if you have nausea, if you have difficulty breathing, if you're coughing, if you're sneezing, if you have runny nose, congestion, sore throat, any of the above, all of the above, take a day for yourself, because there's a chance you could have COVID, there's a chance that you could be having allergies, and there's a chance that you're super stressed out and need a break day anyway. So just make sure to call your supervisor, let them know you're not feeling super well, and you're going to schedule a COVID test just to be sure that you're not risking infecting everyone, and that's pretty much your best bet. Another good rule of thumb, something that I know a lot of places are doing, but something you can do to save yourself a little bit of trouble, is even if you're feeling 100% totally fine, go ahead and take your temperature before you leave the house in the morning, because worst case scenario, you do have a fever, you feel totally fine, but you have a fever, you get to work, they do a temperature check, and you drove all the way there for nothing and get sent home. So, good rule of thumb, always take your temperature before you leave home, and that'll save you a trip, or it'll make sure that you feel a little bit more confident going into work. Thank you so much for joining me for this part 4 conversation about symptoms and all that jazz. Thank you so much for joining me through the entire series. If you have not already, there is a link to the post-test down below. If you have taken the pre-test, please, please, please go take the post-test. Thank you so much again. If you have any questions or comments on anything, please leave a comment on this video or whichever video you feel like commenting on. As long as it's one of these 5 videos, I will probably see it, and I will do my best to respond. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day, and we are looking forward to having you at Second Harvest. Thank you so much for helping us fight hunger in Northeast Tennessee.